Okay. Yes. So we
Cool.
are live. Let's get to it. Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we build products in public. Each episode gives you an honest peek into our lives as we share our struggles, our wins, and everything in between. I'm Benedicta and I'm feeling battered.
And I'm Benedict. Today is February 4th. This is episode number 216, and I'm feeling hungry.
I like your
But
very
this
non
process,
feeling.
I'm literally just hungry. I was thinking about like, how do you feel? And like stomach growling because I skipped lunch today, and for some reason that's bothering me. Sometimes it doesn't, but today I feel it does.
No, gotta be adult about it and like eat and do all those things that you need to keep
Yeah,
your health because
for
you don't want to
sure.
you don't want to be me. So you haven't
Yeah,
heard for
fair
us in
enough.
a while because I've been sick since the last episode. I have been coughing my head off and in between organizing birthday celebrations because it's birthday bonanza January.
Oh yeah, right.
And
There's that.
yes, and also the day after the last recording, Peaches, the horse, threw me off her back, and I took a full front flip, I guess, and landed on my back, which
Oof.
is like luck in unluck, as we say in Norwegian, because hell I uhell. Because had she been the shorter horse, I would have just landed on my head, which is a much worse possible outcome than landing straight on your back. So I did like a full flip so that I went all the way around and landed on my back. But my tailbone had to take the impact, and I'm having trouble sitting. So that's why I'm feeling a
Oof.
little battered, both from the coughing and from the horse, who is not my favorite horse at the moment. Uh, and yeah,
Sounds like you had some fun
yes.
in quotes
So
since we last recorded.
2025 just like started with a like bang in the most in the worst kind of way. You know, we did the last
Oh
episode
no.
like summarizing 2024. I was like feeling super like energized about 2025. You got everything set up well. Especially we were talking about how we loved like the out of office stuff, like writing. And now I
Right.
probably can't write until after summer at least. And maybe I should take a hard look at my extracurricular activities because yeah, I'm not getting younger. So
And this isn't the first time this happened, right? I vaguely remember you fell off the horse last year or the year before as well.
yeah, almost 2 years ago, and then I had a concussion that I've been dealing with for almost all of those 2 years. It's finally cleared up like half a month or like half a year ago. So, yes, I've only enjoyed two sports in my life, and they are both on the like extreme sport list for insurance and stuff, and that's snowboard and horseback riding. So
Oh
I guess
no.
I'll have to, I'll have to deal with this come summer, like to see where I'm at. But um, there
Maybe
we're leaning
start to do hobby
towards.
horsing.
I do not want to do hobby horse. That's the stupidest sport I've ever seen. For those who, if you don't know what that is, it's like almost adults and even adults doing competitions on that stick with a horse head on them. So I'm not doing that. No, no. But even though it started off with the not so great start, I've been laying a lot in on the couch, in my bed, everywhere because I I have to like lay most of the day, both for the tailbone and because of the coughing, and been chatting with Chat GTP about my new idea. Do you want
And
to talk about?
that sounds interesting. Tell me more.
So the project name is Galleon, and I have bought Galleon.tools, of course.
Ooh.
And it's a no-code ID, and it's come like a little bit through my work doing support for Etc. and trying to look more into how people can make they like a lot of our users want to make client portals. They're an agency or they're a freelancer, a Webflow freelancer, and then they have clients that pay them through Outseta, so they have Outseta users. And then they want to make client portals where the user logs in and then they can get like a list of the project or the list of the tasks that are to be done, or just like a project status. And a lot of these people have this data in Airtable.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't that big into the Webflow world, but I heard people say, "Oh, you just use, or some people have been saying like I could also put it in something like Sano, like a proper database, or like Superbase." We've also heard that, but most of them, I would say Airtable. And Airtable has this like little gap where if you want access to the data, you have to like be an Airtable user, and you have to be on the plan for Airtable. But that got me thinking, it's like we've already authenticated the user. And my first research was we support OpenID Connect. Isn't that what it's called? So I was researching, does Airtable have, support for that? They don't. So I was like, okay, we just want to grab like a little bit of this data, but we want to make sure it's only the data relevant to the client. And there's like no way of doing that. And I was like, well, I mean, it's just like a little server function that could be in between there where you authenticate the
Right.
user and then you fetch the data for Airtable. So that's when I started thinking about something that I've later ended up calling, or like working name is Galleon Gateway. And while I was working on that, I started seeing, but okay, that's for Airtable, which a lot of users, a lot of our users and a lot of no coders are using Airtable. But you also have Sano, and I've been seeing videos and things pop up where people are like, "Oh, use Webflow with Sano," and we've had people ask like, "How can I use that set of Webflow and Sano?" So Webflow is the static, like a site builder, and then Sano is a backend database, full API thing. And then I started watching these videos about like how you do it, and I imagine like there was some kind of thing that I'd missed, but no, it's just like JavaScript that's copy pasted into the head in Webflow. So it's not like Sano has I think they have a way where you can sync data into what's called Webflow collections. So that's a way also with Outseta you can sync data from Airtable, or you can sync Airtable to the collections, but that's kind of public data, right? It's not
Right.
authentic. You just put everything in Webflow and then you build pages off of that. So when people are like, "Oh, it's so easy, you just use Sano and Webflow," I'm like, how is this easy for people? But this is like the old Wild West of WordPress. I remember people just copy pasting willy-nilly scripts off of the internet, or right now off of ChatGPT, where it's just like, okay, I want this data from Sano, I want to do this thing, and then you just copy the code from ChatGPT. So then I thought, okay, how do they usually integrate with JavaScript in Webflow? And a lot of the things that are out there use data attributes. So there's something called FinSuite where you can get like additional components or like filtering, search, that kind of thing. And to like implement that, you put their script in the head, just like a URL to a script. And then you go into your Webflow and you say, okay, this element FS search, and then it becomes like a search element, or you add these data attributes onto the visual components in Webflow. So then I started like making a little mini framework that lets you add data attributes for fetching and pushing data with just like a little script tag. So I'm making my own little framework. Don't all developers get to this point?
Definitely.
So that's where so the idea then, I was like, okay, if I can do this and connect Webflow then to Sano, that will be like the pitch, but it could basically be any API in a way that's much easier for the like less technical Webflow folks, where they can use it like, or do it in a way that they're used to. I mean, for us, it's just like writing a fetch call and you grab an ID and then you switch out the ID. Like it's not really like that complex JavaScript, but it's just like it needs to be done. Like somebody needs to create that code.
Right.
Then we could see, is this something people would like? So that would be like the first step. And then if people are liking this and digging this, then we could create Galleon Gateway, and then that would obviously be seamlessly integrated with Galleon data attributes. I think both are products in a way that could live separately. I mean, you could do Galleon Gateway and just expose an API, and you could use it from any technology. But like combined with this like data attribute framework, you get like a full suite to create these kinds of mini applications, I guess, that people want to make with Webflow. So you can make
Mhm.
client dashboards. You could create maybe surveys better, where you could like store the data in Airtable or in Zeno or wherever you want. And you could still keep the authentication with your authentication provider. So it could be Outseta, or or our competitor MemberStack, or it could be Clerk, or it could be Zeno's authentication or Supabase authentication. Yes, I'm very excited about this idea. So now you tell me it's a bad idea. Talk
It's
me
a bad
down.
idea. It's a bad idea. No, actually, I don't think it's a bad idea. I like the idea of like just like making it a gateway and like unifying the interface to like those different database providers. So in the end, you can just like connect them all, I guess. Like have Xeno, have it like Supabase, have Airtable, Notion, whatever. And if you manage to just unify that and allow people to easily embed this using that framework into their workflow, I think that's kind of interesting.
And the thing is that the data attribute approach is very similar to HTMX. I don't know if you've seen that. So I've looked into HTMX, and a lot of Webflow users are using HTMX. But the thing with HTMX, as I figured out, at least I haven't, I haven't used it much. I just looked at their documentation, is that they swap out the HTML with HTML templates. So what have been done in the Webflow world is that people actually put like HTML templates also into their Webflow site to then be able to use HTMX, but then you're not having that visual editor for those templates. So the difference with like my approach would be that you would create all of the components in Webflow, and then we would, hide them, and then we would load the appropriate one. So it would be like GL dash loading for the loading state, and then DL dash item or something for the item in a what's it called, API results, that kind of thing. So it's like prior art in a way. I could look at HTMX and look at some of the ways they've solved it, but solve it with only data attributes and not HTML templates and that sort of stuff. Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah, also sounds a little bit like in Rails we have Stimulus, which is like a similar-ish idea. So where you just like attach, like connect. I basically do it the old school way, like of like connecting your JavaScript to your HTML via the attributes, and like I want to say classes, but I guess in this approach you're not actually using classes, but like just like having doing it the separation of concerns type of way, where like
and it's super old school, and that's why Webflow is so good for this, because Webflow is separate pages, like every page is server-side rendered, or it's not, it doesn't hydrate into any kind of like client side thing. So you can attach, and you can be sure that when you reload the page, it's a new page. And and also I'm finding, like, I'm chatting with ChatGPT about this, of course, and like they're doing a good job with the snippets, because this is the vanillast JavaScript you can ever get. So it's like it's actually giving me pretty good results about like how I should look for all of the elements, and those kind of like tedious things, and sometimes just like really wacky suggestions, but like having that back and forth. So it's like, it's super simple in a way, but also if you don't know coding, it's like super hard. So and I've been looking for an idea where it's like easy for me but hard for the customer. Because often I find things that I find easy, I'm like, nobody wants to pay for that. And then it's like, well, in the Webflow world, they pay for cookie banners that has an X on them. So there's also like, it seems to be.
Is there a Webflow marketplace?
There's a Webflow app place. So what you can make in addition, so we make the data attribute script, but one could also make an app that then lets you click on that component, and then it adds the correct data attribute. So that would be like a next step, where first you will have to like manually do it, but then you can create a Webflow app that then lets you kind of insert yourself into the editor. And there's a marketplace for that. And there's, yes, you can get some exposure through that.
Because I guess the thing I'm a little bit like concerned about in terms of like this idea and like making it a viable business is that I mean, gut feeling, and I don't know anything about the market and like the audience, but like gut feeling is that you cannot charge a lot for this because it's a little bit of glue code, basically, right? Like, I don't see people spending tons and tons of money on this. Therefore, to make it viable, you need to get a lot of users using this. And then the question becomes like, how do you reach that, like, that audience? Like, how do you sell this? And what does distribution look like? So while I get what you're saying in terms of like, yeah, this is like a next step or something like that, I think from a business point of view, I think it should be part of step one. I mean, sure, like it should be part of step one of like integrating this into the marketplace, or like at least making it easily discoverable for users, because otherwise I don't like, yeah, I figure out distribution, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So my initial idea now is to just make a get version. I almost have it done where you put in the script tag and you can do a, we'll preface everything with GL. So you do like a GL dash get and then any endpoint, and you can swap out whatever's on your page just to like as a demo. I already did a video on Twitter and see if like people are interested at all, because if people aren't interested in that at all, like I don't think that's going to be like major, because it's not solving like a hard problem, but it's like a way to see if it's a way people would like to do more kind of interactive stuff in their Webflow app, in their Webflow sites. And then if so, creating the script and then the app to, like, if we say like, yes, this is something we want to go for, then those things kind of can come together. And then the gateway thing is further down the line, because that's going to take a lot more development effort, and I need to know that people are interested. But when it comes to the payment, it's like, it depends on what you call a lot or not, because there are 2 products now that sync data into Webflow data collections. So they take data from Airtable and put it into the Webflow data collections. And there's 2 companies that do that. And they have plans like ranging from 10 a month to like 90 a month.
Yeah. But still, I mean, 90 a month, that's decent, but like it starts at 10, right?
10, yeah. But so there are like, I don't know, there's like there seem to be, well, let's see, yeah. So for 10 a month, you get 250 syncs for one of these things.
Yeah. But I mean, depending on what exactly you're doing, that's plenty, right? Like,
yeah, if you have like what I'm talking about, like a client portal with like 5 to 100 clients, it's definitely enough. But that's into the public version, or like into the public collection. So that's for blog posts or projects for a portfolio and stuff like that. But yeah, that's why I'm like trying to be very slow about it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know I don't know a lot about the community and like the audience there and their willingness to pay. So I might be wrong about this, but again, like I don't see people paying a ton of money for this. But then again, that's me being a developer, being able to just like do this with an hour of my time, I guess. So willingness to pay might be different, and maybe there's a way to make it work. Yeah.
But we'll see. But that's why I'm so like trying to be like, not just like, spend a ton of time just like running into this, but trying to be mindful of like the steps, and not trying to just make the gateway, just like try to use somebody else's gateway, like Zaino has authentication and all of that, and like see if people are interested in that at all, and then like try to build on that.
Did you get any feedback from your post?
Yes, I got like one who wanted to be on sign up, like a waiting list. He said it took a while to figure out. Well, not the one that I posted today, but the other week, where I had like a demo with Chuck Norris facts. So every time you refresh the page, there was a new fact, because it was like fetching it client side. And and one where I fetched from Zaino project. No, I think it was one where I fetched projects from Zaino. I created a project table in Zaino, and then I fetched a project from there. And he was like, it took me a while to realize what's going on, but holy smokes or something, like this is exciting. And then he sent me his email so that he could be on a waiting list.
Okay.
So I have
Well,
like
that's at
three
least
people. I have like 3 people are super
that's
interested.
that's at least something. I mean, what's encouraging is that reaction of like it took me a while to figure out what's going on, but when I realized what's going, I was like, like mind blown. I guess that's a good
hmm
that's a good that's a good way to yeah, a good reaction to this, I guess.
And then it's figuring out what people call it, because what do developers who
Yeah.
are not developers, what
Yeah.
do they say? Will they say like, "Oh, I need to fetch data client side to my Webflow site?" That's probably
That's
not the.
probably not the thing. Yeah.
So it's trying to figure out, and then also all the moving pieces. So the get that I have now, the get script I have now, could work with any API, right? But
Right.
I'm thinking marketing wise, we do Sano. Like you can authenticate and get data through Sano, or you could authenticate through Atseta and get data from Sano. All the examples except for the Chuck Norris one, and I'll have some fun like little ones. But marketing wise, like that's what people are asking. They want Sano data in Webflow. They want Supabase data in Webflow, and then kind of just showing them how to do that and not be like, oh, you could fetch anything and put it in your
Yeah.
put it in your
Yeah.
Webflow site, where it's very like try to be very specific with the brand names, and then they can recognize that, oh, I could put any URL in there. It doesn't have to be a Sano URL. I could,
Yeah.
I could put any API endpoint in here, but that's more of something that you learn. And you could also then use it with Card, for instance, which is that little site builder. They have data attribute support, and many of the smaller site builders have that. But again, like I think leading with Webflow, it's like 700,000 pages or something at this point. It's a better market than going
Yeah.
out after the smaller ones. And then you said classes, and that's the next thing I was thinking about, like using all of the same attribute but as classes, because we do have an Atseta customer who's trying to do this in Squarespace, and Squarespace does not allow data attributes, but they allow classes.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
it might be hard to specify the URL as class, but like different problem, I guess.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so there's like ways it can evolve, but I think it's important that talking about distribution, and it's like maybe I would have been more like general some years back, but now it's like this is for Webflow and Sano.
Yeah, it's like niche it down, like make it
It's like
easily
it could be
discoverable. Yeah.
used for multiple other solutions, but we just pretend just like focus so that we can see if we can get some traction. Because the Sano Webflow examples that are now is like copy paste this code that you can find on this GitHub gist
Right.
into your Webflow site. And it's so easy. And I'm like, that's like the video. It's like super simple. You can integrate these things. And I mean, I would be so scared if I.
Yeah, it's like a lot of stuff can go wrong that way, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that was a lot about my new idea. But that's my plans for 2025. And we are also going sailing for 11 weeks. So that's my thing for
Wow. 11
2025.
weeks.
Yes.
Straight? 11 weeks straight?
Yeah, we leave beginning of June, and then we're going to be back for schools before the school starts. So
Nice.
we're going to
I
be
guess
like working on this like pirate styled galleon is a pirate ship. So
right.
there's a
Yeah.
ship. I don't know if it's pirate ship, but it's a ship. I don't know. I was chatting with ChatGPT with galleon, and it's stuck. I like the word galleon.
we have to figure something out how to record in that setup, I guess.
Yeah, I need to get a star, or maybe not a Starlink at this point, but I need to get something that will let us chat. But I think we're going to be mostly Europe. We don't know exactly where we're going, but it's going to be like out through the Oslo Fjord, and then between France and England, and then like Spain, Portugal-ish.
Nice.
So we might not be able to do every other week. Like it has to be when we're in a harbor, but whatever harbor we're in, it's going to be EU. So I'll have a data service.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Let's see how that goes. Like last time, one of my co-hosts did something like that. They ended up quitting the podcast.
But they also went for a full year. I feel like 11 weeks is
Yeah, fair enough.
more
fair enough.
manageable. And also, there are planes we can catch back home if this is an utter and true
Right, and you're not
failure.
like renting out your house, I suppose.
Parts of it, but not
Parts
all
of
of
it.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough.
So,
Exciting times ahead, it sounds like.
absolutely. So it will be maybe more fun following the podcast though, now that I have a proper project.
Yeah, I mean, not that the podcast has been boring, but new stuff is always exciting, and I mean, SaaS products are always exciting, at least to me. So yeah, good luck, and keep us posted on your progress.
Anything new with
On
Userlist? Do you have any plans for 2025?
yeah, like we've been pretty busy for the past couple of weeks. We launched the company support for triggers, at least soft launched it. It's announced to our customers. They can request to be invited to the beta. It's mostly working. What I'm currently working on is like company trigger support for like, we call these triggered nodes, which are like parts in the workflow that itself are triggered by events and stuff like that. For example, it's people through the workflow and stuff like that. Or the wait until node where
Teleport node?
yes,
That is the coolest thing I've heard.
It's the teleport node. Yeah, you can basically specify conditions, and when those happen, like wherever people are in the workflow, they will be teleported to that particular node and then continue on from there.
Can they
a lot of
time
other
travel
tools.
backwards?
No, they cannot.
No, only teleport forward.
Yeah, it's like in theory it would be possible, but we restricted it down quite a bit to prevent weird stuff from happening.
Mhm.
So in a way, like I don't know, like to developers, you can explain them as like raising exception and then catching the exception.
Mhm.
So anywhere like in code before the thing can teleport forward, and but for example, when you're in a branch, like you cannot like in an if else branch or something like that, you cannot be teleported in an adjacent branch, for example. So it's pretty restricted, but it's still pretty useful to like skip certain stuff. Like for example, the prime example is you have a trial campaign or like a freemium campaign where you encourage people to upgrade, and once they do, you just like move them forward to the part that's about like them being upgraded.
Yes, I
and stuff
don't
like
get
that.
the next 5 emails about you should upgrade before your trial expires.
Exactly. So you can do stuff like that with that. And the other triggered node in that regard is like the wait until, which is kind of like in a way, it's the opposite, right? Like you reach that point and then you stay there until a thing happens. And those are both powered by triggers under the hood. And it turned out pretty complicated to make the company triggers work with that. And like I had a working implementation by the end of last year, but I had this weird feeling about it. Like it was like, it's working, but it doesn't seem quite right. And the more I started poking at it, at some point it became pretty clear that it was fundamentally broken. So basically, by writing more tests, I uncovered the cases where it didn't work and actually was causing. Like, it was not just not working; it was just literally doing stuff with other people's data. So that was pretty bad. But we figured that one out, and then last week I ended up writing tests for what turns out to be 180 different cases. Like there's a lot of combinations that can be going on, and it turned out to be at least 180. Those are the cases I figured out. And I ended up writing it was even hard to write those tests and keep them readable. So I first figured out how to do that. I now have 180 test cases, and of those 187 failed. So I was like, oh, so close and yet so far. And it took some more thinking and like banging my head against the table, and eventually a 2-hour call with Leo, our front-end developer, where we together figured out what was causing the problem and a possible solution. And I'm still like, we hacked it and it worked, but I'm still looking forward to implement like a proper version of that hack. Not a hack, like proper solution to this. And once that is done, it's fully done. Like we can actually launch it. So hoping to do that soonish. But yeah, that stuff is hard. Like you don't realize how hard that stuff is until you try doing it. And the other thing we're currently working on is transactional email API. So so far, Userlist has been like sending emails in automation, sending broadcasts, but we're now also adding an API for messages. So you can, instead of like sending events and data, you can just like call an API and it'll send a message. And that's coming along nicely as well. So those are the priorities for, I guess, Q1. And then things get a little bit of like hand wavy on terms of like what features we're going to focus on for the rest of the year. But the overall sentiment is that we're going to be building more features related to product analytics. And that's not like product analytics for us to know what people are doing in Userlist, but like more stuff that's related to figuring out what your users are doing in your application, and then based on that data, send them stuff. And one of the like North Star features I want to say that we want to build this year is like scheduled report emails, stuff like every month or every week you get a report of what happened in the past week. And we want to build a way to make them easily configurable and easily buildable in Userlist, because I think it's a pretty important feature for like presenting that your tool provides value. And to be fair, like even Userlist doesn't send those at the moment. But like, especially for tools like Userlist that are pretty passive in terms of like you set them up once and then they keep running, it's kind of important to let your users know that it's actually continuing to provide value.
And sending emails.
It's sending emails. You got 10 new customers in the past week. We sent 1 million emails for you and stuff like that. And we want to make it easy for people to have those emails for their SaaS. And I want to say there isn't a lot of stuff out there that does this already. So I'm excited about building this and having yet another unique thing about Userlist that's specifically tailored to SaaS applications. So that's kind of the goal for this year, alongside a couple other small things that we see when we get to them.
You need to have like these fun things where you can be like, oh, you've sent as much email as, you know, in your case.
Right.
And then if I was going to use your tool, for something I could, say configure, if I was a running app, like I could easily configure like, I'm tracking kilometers. Right. So when it reaches this much, like you should say it's like running to Milan from Oslo, or like 2 marathons, or at least that's what I see people love, like those kinds of words, like the milestones are, even for boring things, such as sending emails. It's like, if you printed out all these emails, it would be as high as
right.
Eiffel
that's
Tower,
a good idea.
Or like those kinds of, like if you could let that be configurable for people, depending on what kind of data they have, you could have like, height and lengths and I don't know, volume, like all kinds of weird things.
I like it. That's a nice idea. I keep that in mind. Like a lot of the stuff I just talked about, like I have no idea how we're going to build this, but yeah, we see. I mean, I keep it in mind, and that's what the year is going to be about, at least for now.
And I guess you have the engine for like product tracking is already there now with your triggers and everything. Like you could do more of that product analytics, you said, I guess, where I could set up, because you have a script already you can have on the page. I could like set up, like if somebody clicks here or does that, and then that could go into your trigger flow.
Yeah,
and that
Exactly.
would
Like
show people's user story, like user journeys and stuff like that.
in theory, it should be easy. In reality, there's a lot of challenges ahead of us. But yeah, I guess that's what it boils down to, like making better use of the data you're already sending us.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's the plan, at least for the year.
And then maybe
But
capture some data you don't capture now because it's not needed for email. Like there might be some additional things that
maybe, yeah. But I guess it
Yeah.
will always be pretty
Yeah.
like user driven, depending on what
Yeah,
they actually
yeah,
want to track.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't think we track anything else like in addition
Mm.
right now. But like, yeah, there will probably be more options to like track more stuff. However, we also decided to be reviewing our goals and the roadmap quarterly. So stuff might change, but for now, like the goal for this quarter is like get those remaining features done that I just talked about, and do some more research on like how we get this stuff done and what people actually need, and then in probably Q2 start building our store things in hopefully by breaking it down into smaller features, and then yeah, building those separately, and eventually we'll have this thing that can do a more powerful thing. I keep repeating myself, but building blocks,
But
right?
building blocks. Do you have do you use some sort of established process in the user list for like thinking about the roadmap, or like what direction you want to go in, or is it more of a continuous just conversation with everyone in the user list, or
Yeah, like
follow
we
something?
don't have a super strict process, but we usually get influenced on what's on the roadmap by conversations that we're having with customers and potential leads. And that was one of the things that kept coming up over the past couple of years. And then we try to break it down into like smaller chunks, and as I said, like smaller building blocks that we can then tackle. And we always make a plan for the year in terms of like what we want to tackle that particular year. But for example, last year, I feel like we made a plan and then abandoned it, more or less. So this year I want to be a little bit more thoughtful about like, if we abandon the plan, which is always an option, I guess, we should make it a deliberate decision, which it wasn't last year. So we are going to
I've
have
been
like
working.
more like reviews and like, or like more quarterly planning meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been working on that like personally as well. Like it's it's okay to change plans or stop something, but like have it be more intentional and not just because you forgot the plan.
Yeah, exactly. That, I guess,
And
that's what happened last year, and we don't want to have that happen again this year.
because it's fine to deprioritize something, but then also have like an idea about what are you prioritizing instead
Exactly.
of
And
that.
why are you like deprioritizing it, and why is it not
Yeah.
important, or like why are you stuck on this, and stuff like that. So yeah, we want to be a little bit more careful about that.
The group that I do my planning, like the plan A thing that I've been doing
Mhm.
for multiple years, the last couple of years, the plan has just gone in a drawer. Like it's not life has not allowed me to think about that. But she has started doing where we're asked to come and do like quarterly check-ins as well. So this year, I didn't attend. Did I attend this one? But she's gonna have another plan A, I think, at February 12th. So I'm planning on attending that and actually planning and like getting Galleon in there and all of that stuff,
Right.
and then show up for the quarterly check-ins and do the same thing. Like, do I still want to do it? No, okay, let's plan something else, but not just forget the whole plan.
Yeah. Yep.
So let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that's about it.
See you around the interwebs.
Yeah. Bye, everyone, and don't fall off a horse again, and don't get sick again.
I'll try my best. Okay. Bye.
Bye.